Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's Fishhooks here. We're playing some Kerbal Space Program. Played this game a lot a few years ago. Got pretty far in it when it was still in the beta phase, and now here we are. Several years later, it's a much more mature game, and I've played it a little bit over the last few days, and I'm at the point now where it's time to do a flyby of the moon and bring it on home. So we are going to take this ship that I've built and head to the moon. We're not trying to land yet. Our mission here is to head out there and do some science experiments around the moon, and then successfully bring home our science. So I think that I've got a ship here that's worthy for the trip, ready to go. Well, actually, you know what? No, from the test, there's one thing I want to change. Take this from 60 to 70. I limited the thrust because there's just no reason to accelerate beyond 3 Gs. I'll put it at 73. And 60, it kind of fizzled out. It just didn't accelerate fast enough. So there's an equilibrium here that I needed to find. And so we're going to try this. It needs to get me over 10,000 meters before I go to the liquid fuel engine. I want to keep it on the SRBs for the first 10,000 meters. This mission has basically 3 objectives: to fly by the moon, meaning get into its sphere of influence, its gravitational sphere of influence, gather scientific data, so I've got my various experiments that I'm going to run, and then return. So pretty simple, it's just a matter of getting it done now. So we've launched. We're now accelerating at about 1.5 Gs. As the atmosphere thins, that will accelerate, as in the rate of acceleration will accelerate because resistance will be less. Gotta be careful to not drift off the 8-ball here. I'm going to pitch about 40 degrees to the 90-degree vector whenever we get about 10,000. Should be right about the time that these boosters expire. 10,000. Oh, look at that on the money. Okay, 100% throttle, get away from the explosion there, and let's pivot. Alright, so we're beginning what's called a gravity turn. This is where we get the angular momentum up to get into orbit. If I can get it to stabilize here. There we go. Pardon me. Let's go prep our map. Space happens at 70,000 meters, but obviously we want to roll over well before that. You've all seen footage of Apollo or space shuttle launches, and you know that they don't fly straight up into space. You know, that Al Shepard sort of did. A little shotgun pop into space and then right back down. So we just want to follow our prograde right down the nav ball. 40,000 up right now. Apoapsis is 57,000. Let's continue to roll it over. Be efficient. Try to get this, our apoapsis, up to about 90 to 100,000, and then we'll do an insertion burn. Looking okay on fuel, I think. We'll stop it at 100. This is a pretty good orbital insertion right now. Alright, 100,000 meter apoapsis. We'll now lean the rocket over. Turn off SAS so I can rotate the rocket more freely. Flying directly at the star here. Get it right on the horizon line, right at the 90 degree, and SAS back on. All right, at about 93 to 95,000, we'll start burning again for the orbital insertion. There won't be much left in this engine, so I'll have to pretty quickly jettison. Jettison this stage and begin burning with my TMI engine. In fact, let's go ahead and throttle up now. The smaller engine, the Translunar engine, this little guy is nowhere near as powerful as the big lifter, so it just takes a lot more punch to use it to get into orbit. Ideally, I'd like to only use this one for the actual orbital burns, not for the orbital insertion burn. But this looks like it's going to be all right. And we'll just have this follow prograde. That's where we're going. The moon. How we looking? Apoapsis of 110. About to have a proper orbit. Now I have not yet unlocked patched conics, which allows me to set maneuvering nodes and sort of pre-plan my my orbital maneuvers. So I'm just going to sort of eyeball this. There's a nature to orbital mechanics as to the way things move, and so you can usually rely on the fact that gravity is pretty darn strong in the way that it attracts these tiny, tiny bodies, right? I mean, we're talking about a spaceship here, so it's not like it's a big thing, and it's not like it takes a big body to pull it in. So the moon, for me to get to it, first let me circularize my orbit real fast, and we'll talk about the method here. $128. We'll pull this to about 120 as well. 120 to 130. So what I'm doing here is evening out my periapsis so that I've got a more circular orbit. Those will start to swap sides, and at that point I'll cut the engine. All right, so now what I got to do is basically, all right, the moon is here, right? We'll put it at the 12 o'clock. So the moon is there. I am here on the opposite side of Kerbal, the planet. And so what I don't want to do is just a straight shot. Just like it was getting into orbit was a matter of flying sideways really fast. All orbit is falling fast enough to not hit the ground, right? You're falling laterally quickly. So same thing here. I don't want to just aim at the moon any more than I wanted to aim straight up leaving the ground. I want to aim at where the moon's going to be. Think about a ball being thrown to a receiver. I want to aim where the moon's going to be. So I'm going to eyeball a sort of circular route. Now, because I've played Kerbal Space Program before, I happen to know, and I played it before a lot of those features existed, I happen to know that, well, two things are true, right? Number one, I need to match the orbital plane of the body I want to go to. So you can see my orbital plane here is pretty much equal to the equator of the planet, and so is the moon's. If I overlay them, you can see that they're about the same. Now, Minmus here is the second moon in our little planetary system, right? And of course, if I back out, you'll see that there's a whole solar system. But I want to get to the moon this time. If I wanted to go to Minmus, then what I would do first, well, probably first, I could do it second or third, but I would want to angle this orbit by burning downward at one ascending node or upward at the descending node. I'd want to match the orbital plane of Minmus to where it matched this, weird ellipsis shape. So that's not the right word. What's the right word? It's It's an odd orbital plane. It's an orbital plane. It's not even to the equator of the planet. It's not an equatorial plane. I don't know the actual astrophysical term to that. So what I want to do though, to make this work, is I'm going to, when my ship gets to about here, where I can start to see the moon rise over the planet. At that point, I'm going to kick it into gear, and I'm just going to fire prograde, meaning toward the direction of travel, and that should get me within the moon's sphere of influence relatively easily. So just watching for the moon to pop up. Oh, frog in my throat here. Okay, and go back to prograde, and let's do it. Now we'll just watch this grow, and again you'll see how my apoapsis is going to go out to about here, right? And that's where I'm going to intersect with the moon. It's not going to go here. So this flight path, this blue flight path, will end up coming over here, and then it's going to be interrupted by the moon. How am I looking on fuel? 173. That should be fine for this mission. The farther that the apoapsis gets away from the planet, the quicker it will accelerate in its distance. So the majority of your fuel has to be burned to get that initial spike of delta V. But I imagine once I get to around 4,000 meters per second or so, it'll be enough to get me out to lunar orbit. And I probably won't do an orbital insertion around the moon. I'll just do a flyby. All right, what do we got? So what's this telling us? So there's my insertion burn, right? And what's basically happening is the moon is, I'm falling into the moon's sphere of influence on the inside of its orbital diameter. So I will end up flying by it. I think I want to get closer than that. Right now my periapsis is 767. I think I want to pull it in a lot closer. Let's do a close flyby. 22,000 meters, yeah. That looks good. And I've still got 115 to get back. Nice. Cool. Now, you'll notice here, I'm using a slingshot effect too. If I wanted to, I could take that, and I mean, that would put me all the way out into interplanetary space if I just let it fly. So that's what, you know, you think about, how did Voyager get so far from home? This is what it's talking about. You know, when I get into the moon's gravity, it's like being pulled and then slingshotted away from the gravitational body. So it's an amazing way of maximizing your fuel. You don't have to go directly from A to B. You can go from A to C. You can go from A to B and use B's gravitational pull to accelerate you toward C, right? So indirect paths. Almost nothing that we launch into space goes directly to its destination. We take roundabout routes to maximize fuel and energy. All right, so I've got time accelerated a little bit here, pulling away from Kerbal. Turn it up some more. Beautiful sunrise over Kerbal. You can see that we're getting closer to the moon. Let's look where we're at. So now we are 3,000 kilometers of altitude above Kerbal. Drifting away. Our buddy Jebediah, how you doing, Jebediah? Jebediah's just watching that altimeter go, like, what? That's crazy. Well, don't be crazy when you fly, bruh. That's right. I said bruh. At me. Alright, so we can see that the moon is coming around to meet us. So I'm cruising out this way. Okay, so as soon as this flips over, you'll notice the nav ball is going to change its orientation, because right now it's relative to Kerbin, and there it is now relative to the moon. And so what this is now telling me about my current flight path is if I were to do absolutely nothing right now, here's what would happen. I would fly around the moon, my closest approach being 22,000 meters. Okay? And then I would accelerate away from the moon, where I would escape its gravitational pull in 3 hours and 20 minutes from now. That would then put me onto this trajectory out of the Kerbin planetary system, right? And then would put me onto a solar system orbit that is roughly equivalent, but not exactly the same as my planets, right? So Kerbin is this sort of whitish bluish line, right? My orbit is this purple one. So the mechanics that I just used to get into the moon sphere of influence is the same as the mechanics you would use, albeit with more fuel and thrust, to get to, say, Duna, the Kerbin version of Mars, or Moho, the Kerbin version of Mercury, or Eve, or Dress, or Jewel, or Elu, right? You can go to any one of these, and so and their moons. It's really cool. So for now, though, what we want to do is go do a close flyby of the moon here. So let's see what my instruments are saying. We've got some science action happening here. Let's rotate the ship to where I can see better. Nope. Oh, sorry. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. Alright, so took a bunch of science instruments with us. So let's see what the goo is saying here. Alright, so right now it's recognizing me as high over the moon. We'll go ahead and save that. And save that. And save that. Alright, we'll do a crew report. Hopefully I'm able to transmit that back now, but I don't know if I have enough power. Yeah, cool. Good deal. So that just got me some science. Alright, so now we're kind of in just a waiting mode until we get Alright, so I've communicated that back. Let's go ahead and speed up time and watch how close this moon gets. You'll want to land. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, buddy. We're getting in there. This is still 260,000 kilometers or meters away. I'm getting down to 20,000. So this is 10 times higher than I'm going to be from the moon in a moment. But we'll go ahead and see what this instrument says now. Why are the displays off? Oh, I'm still time accelerated. Okay, let's let it get low. Still showing high. Sorry, I'm getting a couple text messages. Alright, let's accelerate time again. Fall in closer. It's a bummer we're doing this right where it transitions to the darkest area. We don't get to really see the moon. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're kind of getting robbed of the view here. It's alright though. We're nice and low. Let's see what our instruments are telling us. Nearer the moon, 24 signs. Nice. Yes, there are mods you can get to just say, get all my science, but I like to kind of do these individually so I can be selective as to what data I collect at what points. One of the things you've got to manage is what you send back versus, what you transmit versus what you recover, right? So here I'm going to hit recover because 30 science if I bring the container home, 9 science if I just transmit what I think I've learned. And I think it's trying to say that the pilot is stupid. Ooh, that's lots of good science there. Look at that. 36 units of science. Yes, sir. 24 for temperatures. Need to make sure we remember to do a crew report. Some things like crew reports, it's just a subjective opinion of what's going on with the pilot, and so it just doesn't hurt you to go ahead and transmit it. See how that's recovery and transmit at the same 15 science. So I'm going to go ahead and transmit it. Hopefully I'm within range of. Excellent. My electric charge is still looking okay. Every time you transmit, you use a little bit of your electric charge. Let's close that and let's do the big boy. Observe the materials bay. 75 science. Nice. All right. Now, the important thing is recovering all of this, getting it home. All right. So what do we want to do? We're going too fast, right? We're going so fast that we're going to escape the Kerbal planetary system. So what we want to do now is slow down in relation to Kerbal. Yeah, which should not mean speed up in relation. All right, let's go prograde and just see what happens real quickly here. I want to see how our long-term course evolves. Oop. Back to retrograde. Okay. So my orbital plane's gotten jacked up, but that's okay. It doesn't matter where on Kerbal I land, really. You save a little bit of funds if you land really close to the Space Center, but I'm not worried about that. Let's go back prograde. This is a little bit tenuous. Okay, let's just get out of the moon's gravitational pull and then we'll reinsert ourselves into Kerbal orbit. How far are we now? Hey, that's an awesome shot. So pretty. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. It's a great game. Really intellectually stimulating game. Alright, so sphere of influence changed. Now, let's burn retrograde, and that should pull us back into Kerbal orbit. Yeah, looking good. Okay. So we've got a crazy apoapsis here of 78,000 meters, or 78 million meters, well beyond the orbit of Minmus. But that's okay. We're just going to go ahead and get on out there, and then we'll bring our periapsis down, do a little aero braking, and pull this little dude in. Watch how small Kerbal gets. Imagine that for just a moment. Imagine leaving Earth on your way into interplanetary space. $47,000 kilometers. Look at that so far. There's Minmus over there. That's our other small moon. After I land on the moon, that's my next destination. Well, I don't know. It depends on what the next mission is. Let's see what the next mission tells me. It could be land on the moon. It could be go fly around Minmus. So whichever one is the one I'll do. Alright, how far did we say? Oh, still got a ways to go. Alright, so we're close to our apoapsis here. Now the goal is to bring the periapsis down, and the best place to do that is at the apoapsis. Anytime you want to affect one of the major, your altitude, high and low, the best place to do it is at its opposite. So you're most efficient using your fuel at either the apoapsis or the periapsis if you're wanting to change your altitude over the body. If you're wanting to change your orbital plane, you're best at the halfway points between the periapsis and the apoapsis. So in this case, I want to bring my periapsis down. So I'm going to lock that in from the insane 10 million meters that it's at right now down to, we'll say, 50,000 meters. So we're going to do some aero braking. The atmosphere starts at 70,000 meters. I'm just using minimal fuel here. I'm not terribly worried about my fuel. I think I'm okay. But may as well, you know, just be conservative. That way you've always got more than you need. No need to worry about that. That's just, what that's telling me is that if I had stopped right there, that I would have re-interacted with the moon again on its orbital path. So you can actually do multiple slingshots like that. You can put yourself out into a wide elliptical orbit like this, and then swing back in and use the moon a second time to slingshot you. Voyager 2 did that, I believe, with Venus, if I'm not mistaken. And what's the one? Cassini, I think, went all the way around the sun and then came back and used Earth, its origin point, as a slingshot. So I think it was Cassini that did that. The math that those nerds at NASA do, man, it's incredible to me. I understand the very basics of this stuff, just enough to be able to play a stupid video game. Those guys are magic to me. To think that a bunch of nerds in glasses and pocket protectors and slide rules said, yeah, we can put you in that tin can and put you on the moon, no problem. And then they did it. See, again, we're interacting with the moon's orbit again. I kind of don't like what I'm seeing here, actually. The moon's kind of screwing with me. I might have to do an adjustment burn when we get in closer. Yeah, this is kind of bad. Not at all what we need. Let's just stop this burn because all it's doing is matching with the moon. And I'm going to get in closer and then do a deceleration burn. That should throw me behind where the moon's going to be. point me retrograde, please. There we go. You kind of see what's happening here. I'm braking, right? So if you look at me relative to the moon and Kerbal, I'm braking. Nice, yeah. So now I'll fly behind the moon. And my periapsis is coming down nicely. Now look at that slingshot effect that I would be creating if I were to just run with this course. Look at this. Straight back out. See, I can use Kerbal as my own slingshot. It's awesome. I'm not going to do that right now, though, for obvious reasons. Okay, 80,000. We want to do some aero braking. We're going to be super fast coming in here because of the way these slingshots have happened. Oh, that's too much. Let's go prograde 31. I think I might burn up at 31, so we'll bump that up to about 50. Good. All right, and keep it retrograde, and now we're going to do some super acceleration and get in close. Now you'll see that the moon is going to be well ahead of me by the time I get here because of that braking burn. God, I love it. That's great. Alright, so now it's recognized me as over Kerbal again, not over the moon. Let's go ahead and bring it on in. Now, we won't be attempting to land this time by. This is strictly going to be an aero braking maneuver where we're going to fly through the atmosphere. We're going way too fast. Notice my speed here. We're accelerating toward the planet. Still 200,000 meters. We're accelerating toward the planet, and my velocity is over 3,000 meters per second. An orbit at this altitude should only need about 2,400 to 2,600 meters per second. So I am way too fast. That's okay, though. We do need to go ahead and probably start burning, though. Yeah, look at that. Winner. Okay. A little worried about how low I am in the atmosphere here, or how low I'm about to be. It's okay, we'll see how we do. 3,000 meters per second, 3,100. Alright, about to hit atmosphere at 70. Alright, we're in atmosphere. I think we're going to get quite a bit of friction here, so expect to see some fire. Periapsis of 44.9. Look at that. Ooh, a little bit worried about heat. A little bit worried about it. Still accelerating. We're going to thrust to, even though I'm creating heat with the engine, I'm hoping I can reduce speed to reduce friction. Apoapsis and periapsis coming down nicely. Still a little bit worried about this heat though. Okay, we're climbing out again. Apoapsis is coming down nicely. In fact, I might be able to go ahead and make this my insertion. Let's go ahead and get back out, and then what we'll do is, why don't we try to do a precision thing here? I've never managed to do it very well before. But we'll see if we can't land close to the command center, to the Kerbal Space Center. So let's get back up out of the friction here. It's a pretty good maneuver to come from that far out and then nail it so nicely. Definitely got a little lower in the atmosphere than I wanted, but hey, you live and learn, or you die. Space is dangerous, guys. All right, our apoapsis is still decreasing, which is great. I'm still gaining altitude, which is also great. Let's go ahead and sacrifice a little more fuel, see if we can't get some precision lined up here. We're still pretty close to the periapsis over here where we're being efficient with fuel. "36 units of fuel left." I don't know, I think we're going to run out of fuel a little sooner than I want for the precision landing. It's not looking terrible though. If the apoapsis is about here and I'm re-entering the atmosphere here-ish, I should be pretty good. Let's go ahead and let's burn off the rest of our fuel. Let's just see what we get. Yeah. Alright, so now I know that that's overshooting by like a quarter of a planet. But when I get back into the air resistance around here, that line, my path will come way back. So I'm gonna try to do this. Let's go ahead and accelerate time. Only got 13 units of fuel left, but again, it's an efficient engine. You've seen how long I've been using this engine. My altitude right now, 100,000. Wow, I can't believe I've gotten right back onto a equatorial orbit here. I thought for sure it would have been distorted by my 2 run-ins with the moon. Okay, let's do a retrograde burn. See if we can bring the splash down to about here, and then I think it'll retract itself pretty organically. So I'm at 85,000 right now. I think that's going to be wicked close. It's a pretty aggressive angle, though, I will say. I'm okay. I'm alright with speed. Alright, getting ready to re-enter. May as well go ahead and... Hey, we were just there. let's go ahead and I hate detaching a module when I've still got useful fuel in it. I just hate it. Hate the waste. All right. Altitude is 68, so I'm in the atmosphere now. Alright, let's go ahead and detach. At this point, we're just on a trajectory. We'll see what happens. Keep it pointed retrograde. Alright, so this continent here is this Africa-looking continent here. So hopefully I will... So right now what I'm hoping is that the air resistance that we have here is going to retract the line here to where I splash down or land like really close to the space center. If I do, that'd be super cool. I've one time ever managed to land where I could actually see the buildings. I landed in this grassy plain right here, right next to the center, and it was really cool. Hold on. All right. So we're coming down. I think we might be a little long. We'll see what happens with the wind shear. Started to pick it up yet? Yeah. As long as we clear the mountains. I hate it when I land in the mountains. You get a bit of a bonus when you finish a mission close to the KSP, the KSC, excuse me, just because it's less expensive to recover. It's not a significant bonus, it doesn't really matter, but this early in the game, kind of everything matters more. Got some good heat now. How's our blader doing? Nice. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, look at that. I think we're going to clear the mountains just fine. I think it's going to be a grassland landing. Now it's on the KSC. Alright, so you see that little lighter patch right there? That's actually the launch point. So, really close. Uh-oh, this might be a mountain landing. See how much I retracted? I shouldn't have done that last little burn. Uh-oh, what'd I lose? Oh, that must have just been the debris falling. Alright, parachute check. Safe to deploy. Looks like it's going to be a mountain landing after all, so we'll go ahead and deploy drogue chutes. And then we'll also deploy the main chute in just a moment. Pretty close, look, I can see the buildings. Alright, let's go ahead and deploy the main chute, I think. I rest this speed. I'm not sure exactly what my real altitude is because of the mountains. This is sea level. Got a shadow. Ready for the chutes to deploy. There we go. That arrests me down to 30 something. Okay, good. Now the main chute will deploy and bring me down to less than 10 meters per second. No worries, that was just my debris hitting the ground somewhere. Alright, main chute deploy. Main chute full deploy. 8 meters per second. That should be good. Let's go ahead and accelerate down. Pay attention to our shadow. You don't want to hit the ground under time acceleration. You don't want to do many things under time acceleration. You see here, we're about to land 1,300 meters over sea level. But this should be the conclusion of a successful mission, so long as my little science pod here can take this landing. Nice. Let's roll it over and see if we can do an EVA. I don't know that our little guys have been out here. Good little extra science. I'll transmit that as well. Just about out of power. Do another EVA and let go. EVA report, no different. Alright. Oh. Come on, Jeb. Let's just be ready to hit B. Missed it. It's alright, I should be able to recover him from this, but there we go, got on. Let's go ahead and recover the vessel. Look at our spoils. 371 science. That is an awesome haul. That's great. Recovered some important parts. And Jeb gained 2 XP. That's awesome. Alright, so that was a trip around the moon. Next will be a trip to land on the moon, I believe. Let's go look. Explore the moon. Orbit the moon, return to Kerbal. Oh, okay, so next will be an orbit of the moon. These could be tricky, but that'll give me some fun stuff to do while I'm at the moon. That's another good one. I can only take 2 missions at a time right now. How much will it cost me to upgrade this? It's only 10% of my funds. Okay, let's go ahead and take science data from space around the moon. Explore the moon. And we'll take a gamble and the temperature surveys of the moon. So all 3 of those missions will be the subject of our next adventure. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Fish Hooks out.